Okay, it's 5 o'clock, and at this time, we'll go ahead and call the McDowell County Board of Commissioners into session for our monthly meeting. And at this time, I would like to ask everyone to please stand. We always begin our meeting with a prayer and a pledge. So today, Commissioner Tony Brown will listen to prayer, and then Commissioner Green will do the pledge. Listen to the pledge.
Bow our heads, please. Father, we thank you for this day. Father, we thank you for your goodness and your mercy. And Father, we thank you, God, for our county. We thank you for our nation. And Father, we pray, dear God, that you just lay your holy healing hand upon those, Father, that are facing this terrible sickness that's going throughout our land, Father. And we pray, God, that you just touch those bodies. God, and there's some of them, Father, that's facing uncertainties, Father. We pray, God, that you just be with them and their families. Father, we pray, God, for our leadership and our guidance and everything that we do here tonight, Father. Father, we have the love of this county and the love of our country at hand, Father, and we pray, Father, that everything that we say or do will be to uplift the citizens of the county and protect them, Father, from harm's way. And Father, we ask you now to bless and have your way. In Jesus' name, amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, we have our minutes before us, and commissioners, we always start the meeting, and we've got 4 sets here, 5 sets before us. What's the pleasure of the board? You've had a chance to read those?
Move we approve.
Second.
Okay. Motion second. A discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay. Let's go to the next item as our approval of tonight's agenda. And does staff and or commissioners have any item they wish to add? I've got one. And that would be a resolution we had talked about the other day. So if the board's okay, we'll add that under item item F, new business. Other additions or deletions? There being none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve with the addition.
Okay.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on our appointment schedule. And our first appointment, we have Blair, Melton, and the distinguished Bob Hunter in the crowd with us tonight. So, Blair, I guess you're going to come on up and present first. And this is about an opportunity regarding a PARTF grant. So, Blair, welcome to the boardroom. Well,
Thank you.
Our temporary boardroom.
Yeah, well, this is actually the first time since I've been with McDowell County to be able to stand up and address you, so that's exciting. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to see y'all are doing well. I asked to speak to you tonight to give you some exciting news on the Fonta, Flora home front. As you know, I've been working with the new organization called the Friends of the Fauna Flora to get it off the ground in order to be able to support the various groups and local governments that are needed to get the trail on the ground. It all started back in November at the groundbreaking for the Lake James Visitor Center. Commissioner Vaughn, Commissioner Green, and Ashley was there. That was an exciting day. Since then, we've designed this organization and brought it up from scratch with the vision of our current president, who I have with me tonight, Judge Bob Hunter. He's been the driving force behind the Friends group. And along with Heather Cotton from the city of Marion, Shane Prisby from Burke County, and Josh Harold from town of Black Mountain, as well as Charles Abernathy. We have turned that little working group into a fully functioning board of 19 people. So that's really good and really exciting. Bob's going to talk to you a little bit more about that in a minute. Let's see. So we've been moving very fast. The new organization we've just had so much support and so much interest in it. I can't believe it myself, but that's why I wanted to come talk to you tonight. Not on behalf of Old Fort, but to help Old Fort, we would like to apply for a Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant. And we just think that the Bud Hogan property in Old Fort would make an excellent trailhead park. It's been targeted for a long time now for a park. And in your packet, you have a map, I think, of the project. It's also, well, it's along I-40, and it's also at the confluence of the Catawba River. We think that there's a very strong possibility that with the combination of Old Fort never having applied for this grant and with the amenities at the park, we think that they have a really good chance of getting the grant, being awarded the grant. Also in front of you is a draft of a resolution which confirms the support and commitment of the county's commitment to the grant application. The resolution outlines the various local funding matches to support the project, which Bob is going to come up here and discuss in more detail. Thank you.
Thanks, Blair.
That map, page 21, if you have one.
That doesn't take in the Davison Port at all, does it?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you very much for letting me appear here. I'll try to answer your question, Vice Chairman Brown. First of all, before I forget it, I want to thank Ashley and y'all for loaning Blair to our organization. She's been indispensable. If we hadn't had her, this all wouldn't be happening, and you wouldn't have me, because it is since we started this, let me take this thing off right now and I'll put it back on. It's hard to talk through this thing if you're going to be talking much. And I think plenty of distance here. As she said, this started and it is really mushroomed. And for a lot of people, and there's people I'm sure that probably watching this streaming or will be seeing it, that may not be familiar with the Fonta State Trail, but it is a state trail. And the legislature created this trail back about 4 or 5 years ago. And Buncombe County was kind of the impetus in it happening, and they got a good head start on it. But it goes from downtown Morganton up through downtown Glen Alpine, around Lake James, over the Mountain Victory Trail is going to come in. This trail will actually go through the new visitor center that's under construction at Lake James State Park. And it'll come on around the lake, it'll come on around through Black Bear, talk a little bit more about that. Y'all have been really instrumental in having that park down there with Duke Power. It's going to come through there. It'll come on up, come up by the Big League. It comes up North Fork, Big League, Yancey Road, downtown Marion, out back to the Catawba to tie into the existing greenway, up that greenway, tie into the county's park there, and then on behind the Carson House, Tom Johnson's Camping Center, and eventually on up to Old Fort, to where it'll tie into this project. And I'll tell you a little bit more about it and its importance. And then it'll go through downtown Old Fort, by the museum, by the library, downtown area that's really developing there, out and under 70, the railroad track, connect up out there through the area, the Camp Greer area. There's some state wildlife lands there that Foothills Conservancy is working on, and they're starting pretty immediately to build a section of the trail through it. And there'll be some more segments. We'll tie into Point Lookout. Y'all have been involved with that. Up the mountain to Ridgecrest, from Ridgecrest to Black Mountain. Black Mountain is very interested in this. That's called the Depot to Depot, the Old Fort to Black Mountain project. And then continue on into downtown Asheville. So this trail, it's not just for the use of hikers. It's certainly that's a big part of it, but the use of the hikers is going to bring a lot of people into McDowell County and to use this trail. It is a big economic development tool, and we're seeing that, and that's why we've had our board, she touched on it, but we have 15 regular board members, 5 from each county. Your chairman is on that board. Then we have a city councilman, Woody Ayers. We have an Old Fort alderman, Jerome Elfer. Andrew Carlton's been very interested in it, but y'all know Andrew has had some health issues, and we certainly want to include him in our prayers. So then we have Steve Bush with the Chamber of Commerce, Steve Pierce with McDowell Trails. In Burke County, we've got an equally impressive group down there, being the chairman of the commission from down there, from City Council. The person that used to be a recreation person who's now in that City Council, who actually worked on the Morganton Greenway, and other people like that. In Buncombe has not had any real activity except the interest of Black Mountain, but we're changing that, and that's really important because they can be a driving force. We now have the vice mayor of the city of Asheville. We have a county commissioner that we're working out one little technical glitch so that she can serve. We have a member who's active in the community in their trails group. We have someone, we really lack one person to fill up there, and we're working on that. There are 4 other designated categories on our board. One is from the Friends of Lake James State Park. They started all this at a board meeting, and their designated person to sit on that board is me, and I got elected chairman. We also have a Western North Carolina YMCA as board member. Tim Blinko, who used to be our Y director here, is second in command over there. He's on the board for us. And then we've got another designated seat. It's really a powerful group, Foothills Conservancy. And they've been the ones that have been buying a lot of the land all around to help with the trails and other things. And so Andrew Cota, their executive director, is in one spot. And then the last one is a health foundation provider type, and we've got someone who's very involved with what used to be the Care Partners Foundation over there. It's now the Western North Carolina WNC Bridge Foundation. So we've got a real strong board. Things have really been happening fast and furious. The immediate thing tonight is this property up at Old Fort. About a year and a half ago, the state started talking about buying that piece of property. It's owned by Airhead Corporation. It was Bud Hogan. Kind of people knew it as the Bud Hogan property. It's right behind the fort. There's about 18 acres there, and then there's another piece right behind that that's being acquired that actually allows access to the trail to come across the railroad and to go under 40 and to have a connection to the Catawba River, so there'll be a fishing component to it. The property should be acquired, I'm told, in June. It'll be leased to the town of Old Fort for $1 a year, and so Old Fort then would develop this. It'll have, we think, about 7/10 of a mile of the Fonta Flora State Trail. It'll be a trailhead there. It'll also obviously be important to the Davison Fort. They're going to develop a park. A lot of things will be at that park, including, we hope, a dog park. And so it's going to be really, really important, and the people up at Old Fort are very excited about it. Blair and I appeared before their town board about 2 weeks ago, I guess, and all of their board are very, very excited about it. They're having, that was a public meeting on it. They'll be meeting next Monday night to adopt a resolution similar to what you're doing tonight. What they're doing is applying for a PARTF grant, as she mentioned. It's $300,000 being applied for. It requires a 50% match. As you can imagine, for the town of Old Fort, that would be very, very difficult to come up with $300,000. So we've worked to make it possible, and you're a big key to that. The town of Old Fort has agreed that they can put up $100,000. I've secured a private donor who wants to remain anonymous, who will put up another $100,000, and you're being asked to commit $100,000. And that would give the matching money for this state PARTF grant. Heather Cotton from the city has been doing the work on that on a volunteer basis, working with Heather and myself, and that will be submitted. And we're very positive that that grant, with all the things that are going on, will be approved in the fall. So that's what's going on right there. There are other things that I just want to briefly make you aware of from there. We've got to get through downtown Old Fort, as I mentioned, to go through that connecting, going up and tying in. And that'll give us, once we get to the top of the mountain and there at that mountain, a good 10 miles of trail. And that'll really be a popular part of it. The other thing is Catawba Falls. Catawba Falls is a very well-known, visited place. We want to try to get a connector up there. That'll be in the future. I didn't know about it till recently, until I found out about the Rutherford Trace. And I'd heard about it, but not paid too much attention to it. But the Rutherford Trace happened in 1776, right there where the McDonald's is, right up that meadow up there. And there were more people that gathered there than gathered to go down to Kings Mountain with the Over the Mountain group. There were 2,700 men, I think all of them were men at that time, that gathered there in that meadow, and that's where they left there and went on up to through Swanville Valley and up on towards to Cherokee. And that was an important matter with the American Revolution. So it has historical importance, but also because Catawba Falls is so popular, when you get a spur up to there, you really got something. Old Fort can become a really destination point for hiking in this area. And you tie that in with everything else that's going on. We talked about Burke County's got a lot of trail already. And then there's some in the park. There'll be more being developed, Lake James State Park. Over the Mountain comes through there. And then we'll come into Black Bear. And let me mention Black Bear because Blair and I and Shane Prisby, who's with Burke County, have been working and trying to figure out something that will fit in with y'all's plans and Duke Power's plans because the trail, Fonta Forest State Trail, comes right through there. So we're meeting with DOT and then we're going to meet with Duke Power, try to work out something because that is something we hope Duke Power will do, Bill, and that could be done, fairly soon. The North Fork piece of property, I think we mentioned that at one of the meetings, not here, but one of the things y'all have done and participated in is this local group that David chairs, Chairman Walker, that has all the county people involved in trails, and they meet, and I've had the pleasure of appearing before them a couple times, and that has made a huge difference in the county. Everybody working together, and that group has heard about this and actually wanted to make sure that we did get this PARTF grant in, and so that's been a big part of the drive to do that. Foothills Conservancy is buying, and that closed, I think Friday, it's supposed to, a piece down at North Fork, and the trail will come through there. It'll come on up, as we mentioned, to Big League, into Marion, and so that's going on. The connection piece between the Catawba River and the McDowell Park is very, very important. And I think some of y'all know we had some DOT money that was available to start engineering on that and planning. And then we had money that we were hoping to be able to use for construction. Construction was down the road a little bit. I don't know if you've been reading about the funding shortage with DOT, but that's been put on hold. So we don't have that money right now. We're trying to work through that to see if we can get in a position to be able to work on that project. That project is very important because it connects up the two trails. Right now we have a gap on the other side of 70 to where we get to the county property. And we need to close that. I've been involved recently with a statewide group that's working on a proposal for the governor and the legislature to put some money into trails, especially these state trails. They are state trails, and the state ought to put some funding in them, and we're asking them for some non-recurring money that would help on this, and also some recurring money that would allow us to be able to hire a person that could function in something like Blair's doing, which we've got to have if we're going to be effective in taking this project from a 30-year project to a 10-year project. That's what our goal is. We're also looking to, so this would be stimulus money. We found out recently how important trails are. That's the one thing people can do is get out and get on these trails. Most of them have remained open. So we're also hoping that there could be some federal stimulus money. And if there is, we want to be ready. And this group is connected with groups all over the country that are asking the federal government if they do a stimulus package to include some trail money. Well, if they do, they want to have projects that are shovel-ready. This project out there that we've lost the state DOT funding on, we really could be shovel-ready on that project. And then up at Old Fort, there's areas up there as well. So we're working, Blair and Heather are helping put that information into that list. So all that going on. One aside that's not been much public attention here played to, but could be important down the road, not in the immediate future, is the Wilderness Gateway Trail. And that goes from Catawba County down through Burke County by South Mountain State Park, through South Mountain State Park, down into Rutherford County, into McDowell County, 221 down there. And so then it continues on. And at some point in time, when that trail is done, and then you look and you've got that P-vine that goes down towards Rutherford, 221, so that would be a logical connector. So, you know, years from now, you could see all these trails connected, and all of them will be coming through McDowell County. It could really, really be important. I've talked a lot, and but I wanted to update you on those things, and you have that resolution, I think, that's been forwarded to you, and I would hope you can adopt that tonight. It's very, very important to McDowell County, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
As y'all can tell, the judge is passionate about trails. And he referenced a couple of things I want to tie into. Blair has done an excellent job, and this board has saw the need for the direction where you see in the state and the county. How many? There's 7 major state trails. Is that right?
I'm told 9. And
9. How many of them run through McDowell, or will run through McDowell?
it'll be 2.
2.
That would be Fonta, Flora, and Gateway, right?
Gateway would be rail trail, like isothermal, mountains.
Mountain to
Well, the
sea.
mountain to sea, yeah, we don't want to get that. That is one of the state trails, so that'll be connected with the Over the Mountain Victory Trail coming down. So that's connected, it'll all basically be connected.
So we'll have, out of the 9, we'll have 5 in and going through McDowell County, so 4 or 5.
That's an amazing thing. McDowell County is right in the crux of western North Carolina.
And the National Trails Association has signed off on this too. We've got a letter from them, Judge, and as has been referenced, they're going to have dog park, disc golf, connection to the Catawba River, you mentioned that, for fishing, picnic tables, playground. So a lot of good things are happening. And you know, as you said a minute ago, Judge, with COVID-19, people have been cooped up, but they can go on a trail and walk, and they get exercise, and that's very important. Ashley, anything you need to add to this?
Just to talk about the budget a little bit, the ask for the grant is $100,000. Mentioned in your memo, we have about 35 set aside right now. We don't have the balance set aside or identified in next year's budget right now, but we're still working on it. So if I had to produce the 100 right now, it might be a challenge, but we continue to work on the budget. And typically the way these projects work, you phase them in where money isn't necessarily due all at once at the beginning. The projects we've worked with, for example, with the city of Marion, those have been very cooperative, and typically we invoice them towards the end of a project. This could be a little bit different and paid as the project proceeds, which was spread it over, I presume, over 2 or 3 budget years, depending on how development happens. So there's a little more confidence if it's spread out over the next 2 years as opposed to next year. But if you want to do it next year and the time it works out, make adjustments.
Comments or questions for Ashley or Blair or Judge Hunt?
I could point out timing, he mentioned it, and the timing, the grants will be announced, and we think in late September or October. Then you've got the contracts got to be signed with the town of Old Fort. They're the ones that would be the thing. And Blair would be the one that would be designated as the administrator of it. Probably going to be after the first of the year,
Spring.
before anything will get started on it. And so to build it, 6 months, a year probably, I'm guesstimating there.
It'll bleed into the next, in 22, so.
Probably, it certainly could. Yeah.
Feels like.
I've had the privilege of, as you know, hosting the campground down at Paddy's Creek State Park for several months last year, and I'm due to go back again this year.
Good.
And I have been surprised at the number of people that come from all over the United States to see what is available in Burke and McDowell County. And those trails are used heavily. So I would urge the board to support this endeavor.
And Commissioner Green, I don't know if you've been down there recently, but if you haven't, see if you can sneak into the site and look at what's been done on that site. That visitor center, when it is open, it is going to be something to bring in people from all over. The site, you're going to be able to see, short off, I think you'll be able to see Mount Mitchell, and you're going to be able to see the lake, and there's going to be a bridge that goes across right below it. It'll go over to Long Point, I think, whatever it's called, where the camping sites are. And that'll be part of the trail. This bridge will be, that goes across, going to be part of the trail connecting up through there. When that's done, that's going to be another game changer.
Classrooms for that our school system can use.
Other comments, questions?
I'd make that a move that we support it.
They have motions at a second. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Okay, Judge, thanks so much, sir.
Thank you all so much, and again, thank you for your use, and actually always very responsive, and all y'all have been so much help.
Thanks, sir. Okay, let's go to our next item on our agenda. We have item B on our appointments agenda, and we have a COVID-19 update with Mr. William Kehler. I say William's done an outstanding job, and him and his people during all of what's going on during this crisis, pandemic, and William, hats off to you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come back and give you an update this week. Today is day 57 of activation of the Emergency Operations Center for COVID-19 response. Current number tested in McDowell County is 581. 520 tests are negative, 30 have returned as positive, and 31 are pending. 22 of the 30 are currently out of quarantine, 7 remain in quarantine, and sadly we've had 1 death. From the response standpoint, the Operations Division continues to focus on the COVID hotline and the online screening tool that is used where people can screen their symptoms for COVID-19, and it provides real-time feedback, and it also allows for interaction with the Emergency Operations Center if these individuals need navigation of the healthcare system or they require additional resources. Continue to remain focused on, from the response standpoint, in coordination with public health, on aggressive testing, contact tracing, and monitoring the local trends here within our own county. Each day we are posting updated statistics on our emergency management website, McDowellEM.com. That provides a breakdown by zip code, by age groups, as well as other pertinent information. Our logistics division remains focused on ensuring first responders and healthcare professionals in the county have access to personal protection equipment. We remain on alert at EMS for individuals who are presenting with fever, cough, shortness of breath, and we're requiring EMS personnel to wear PPE on every call. Close coordination continues with our long-term care facilities, as it remains one of our top priorities is to mitigate and continue urging these facilities to take extreme precautions to prevent the virus from entering long-term care facilities. We have scheduled a additional coordination call this week. We've had 100% participation of all of the 15 facilities in McDowell since we started. And as of this afternoon when I left the Emergency Operations Center, there were 0 positive cases in these facilities. So we have no cases in McDowell in long-term care facilities. Human Services Branch continues close coordination as we look at the collateral damage of this incident, close coordination with our feeding group, our volunteer coordination. The volunteers in this community have been exceptional with providing masks, providing assistance, and delivered meals to homebound citizens. The Senior Center delivered 980 boxes of food today to senior citizens. One of the things, and I hate to even bring this up, I briefed you last week, but our team continues. We're well aware that June 1st is the start of hurricane season. But with that, for our team comes challenges as we look at how that presents with lack of manpower this year, with emergency agencies being stretched thin across the nation. Mutual aid requests are going to be impacted if we have a significant incident here. Not only hurricane, that could be any type of event, but we're also looking at the challenges of congregate shelters if we have to open that up. There are new regulations that we've got to abide by, and our team is working through those to determine the local impact and our approach for any type of congregate sheltering should that be needed during hurricane season. Recovery, which is extremely important, continues to focus in supporting businesses across the county. We have participated in multiple webinars with the chamber, the county, the town, as well as the last one I participated in was with ice thermal planning for business recovery and providing technical assistance to businesses who are looking for best practices from CDC and other types of validated agencies to provide guidance as we continue to see businesses reopen, which is extremely important. With that, take any questions. I will say that our plan for the Emergency Operations Center continues to be to provide the support to the community as we enter the different phases laid out by the governor's order. And we continue, as I said a minute ago, with a laser-like focus on these long-term care facilities and working daily with them on best practices and how do we take additional action to mitigate and protect our most vulnerable citizens, which are in these facilities.
Okay, comments or questions for you?
Do you have the breakdown on the zip codes with you today? I mean, normally you give that to us in the morning.
Yeah, I did not write the zip codes down. I think I know them on the top of my head, but to make sure I'm accurate, I'm not going to.
That's okay.
I've got it.
I've asked that.
It's 13 for Marion, 15 for Nebo, and 2 for Old Fort.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Just to highlight it, though, to the board, 6 best practices were taken from what you and your staff have done and are going to be implemented statewide. Other agencies are.
Yes, so that was feedback to the Association of County Commissioners looking at, and they're taking that from all different counties. There were 6, I think, tips that your county is doing that is showing how each community's needs is different. Each community, what they're dealing with is different in some aspects. So the Association of County Commissioners requested information on programs that we have been doing. I will point out that the online screening tool, really proud. McDowell is a rural county, but we've showed consistently that we can be a leader. And the online screening tool is, the McDowell News reported, I think last week, we were the first county in Western North Carolina to launch an online screening tool, and we launched it very early on. And that's important for people to have access. But we also did things with the COVID hotline for people that may not have internet access. We did the mailing through the mail, especially for our elderly citizens, reverse 911 call. So we continue to look for ways to interact with our citizens.
Hey, hats off. You've done an excellent job. Very professional done. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Lee.
Okay, let's go to item C on our appointment schedule. This is county operations. We have Mr. Wood. Go ahead and lead us out, sir.
Thank you, Mr. DePoyster, our Public Services Director is also here. We need more detail than I can provide. Just wanted to mention briefly that today was the county's implementation of phase 1 for reopening of several of our facilities. So today you had the lobbies and the pavement windows for the administration building and the administration annex. Those two facilities were reopened. We had staff in place, especially the administration building, because of the number of people that could be going to the tag office. My understanding is it was manageable all day. No real big issues, people eager to get in. I will note the legislature did pass, the governor signed a bill as part of the relief package a week and a half ago. There was a provision that extended expiration dates for anyone that had registration renewal between March and August, and those were extended 5 months. But it's hard to put out to a county population to say you don't have to rush in today, you've got more time. Because most people, if it's expired, they want to get it renewed today. That makes sense. But it was a managed flow today. We do have reduced staff in the tag office right now. I mentioned that last week. So we do have modified hours from 8:30 to 4:30 with an hour lunch closure from 1 to 2. The staff in those departments and others that are reopening are provided masks. We are deploying flashcards with the plexiglass where it wasn't already present. So we're making sure that those facilities have the proper equipment in place. There are decals and tape and different things that will be on the floor for folks to maintain the distancing as they return. So it's a little anxiety-inducing sometimes for folks, but we've had good results so far, and hope to keep working that way over the next couple weeks.
Okay, comments, questions? There being none, let's go to our old business on our agenda. This will be item A, the EMS capital project update. And Mr. Wooten, you can list out. William, you going to come up? That.
Either he or Mr. Foyster
Terry too.
Can chime in on this. This is an update, so no action requested tonight. Just to update where we are. So at last month's meeting, later that week, on April 9th, we opened bids on the North Station, and then on the 23rd of April, we opened bids on the headquarters. I've mentioned to you previously that the bids on the North Station were a little bit higher than the highest estimate from our architect. And so that bid you have in your packet, the base bid was $777,700. And there are a couple of alternates. We would recommend taking at least one of those for when you consider that early next month. We opened bids again on the 23rd for the headquarters. The base bid there was $5,561,000, and there is one alternate there for an emergency generator that we will recommend that we finance. So with those two bids, associated fees, etc., the approximate cost is $7.4 million for both. We have financing out right now. We've had at least one bank. This was Friday, so it's data and information, but one that has contacted and said they are preparing their bid. We'll wait on the others, of course. You have the schedule on page 27. We were following. We gave them until June 2nd to return the bank bids. You will have a public hearing on June 4th. We will send the LGC packet to Raleigh on the 5th. The LGC meets on July 7th, and July 8th you could sign contracts at that point. So again, no action requested tonight. I didn't note for the public, just in emails, that the headquarters bid, the was about $1 million less than the estimate on the low end. So that was very good news. And we had a tremendous amount of bidder interest, really on both of them, but especially we had 13 bidders on the headquarters. And I've been with the county almost 20 years, and I don't remember ever having 13 bids on the project. So that was a tremendous return. The architect was very excited, and his words to me were, "Move if you can." And so we talked last month about that. We had scheduled at that point a conversation with the local government commission staff. It's a little uncertain about next year's budget, of course, with everything around COVID. And so what we asked LGC staff, if we were to do interest-only payments for a year or two, would that be acceptable to the staff and the commission? And the staff indicated this is done all the time with capital projects. And it was almost like you should do this in all your projects, so we'll take that note from now on. If you can do principal and interest, certainly, but if with uncertainty with the budget, that's what we're recommending for next year when we move forward. So everything seems to be moving in a very positive direction, and we're excited to keep pushing on.
Okay, comments, questions by board members, or William, anything you want to add to that?
No, I just really appreciate the support, especially Mr. DePoyster and Mr. Wooten and staff has provided with me being at the EOC and neck deep in this. It really helped with some of the legwork it's been asked. Really appreciate the help I've got.
Try to be a
And
little.
state, for the people watching the meeting tonight, state the goal has always been for McDowell County to be a 4-base system, and if you could explain some of that to people watching.
Yeah, so for many years, we started working on this plan really in 2010. It took off in 2013 and then really ignited several years ago. But we've done a substantial amount of work with regards to response time studies. And on any given day, it takes us, on average, 5 minutes to get out of the downtown area for over 80% of the calls that we're running out of the Marion station. The Marion station services Woodlawn, Ashford North Cove, Glenwood, Sugar Hill, parts of Dysersville, meets in the middle there on the Nebo side of the district, Nicks Creek area, parts of PG. So when we look, we're servicing a large amount of geographical area out of the Marion station. But with pedestrians in downtown Marion, the number of traffic lights, and everyone knows on this board my stance on safety. It is our #1 top priority at EMS, is being safe for the public as well as our employees and patients. But it's added on average 5 minutes to the majority of the calls that we're going to. So we came and looked at a 4-station plan, put one on the north side of the bypass, one on the south side of the bypass. We split the downtown area in half, maintained 5-minute responses time on average into the downtown area, but we improved response times for over 80% of the calls that we're running in the downtown district. And this isn't something that we just, we have put in a substantial amount of time doing response time studies during the day, at night. We've ran them at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we've ran them at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I feel totally comfortable with the plan that it is going to improve response times, but in turn that improves patient care, and it improves outcomes for the patient.
And that's what this board is really focused on, is the patient outcome. We're like you, we want our people to have a positive outcome. And like you said, 80% of the calls come out of the downtown station, and there's a 5-minute lead time to get out of downtown. And that's, with your proposal and the board's acceptance, it's better for everybody, it sounds like. You're going to see 80% of the people have an improved response time. So good job. Terry, anything you want to add to? Okay. Thanks, sir. Let's go to item B under old business. This will be our board appointments, and we've got 9 people who have applied for the planning board. There's 4 seats that are vacant. This is the second reading. You mark your ballots for that. The Agricultural Advisory Board has 6 vacancies, and this is the second reading, but only 1 applicant. So at this time, we'll go ahead and give that another 30 days. So if anybody's out there watching this, and the paper does a great job in getting information out, if you want to serve your county, the Agricultural Advisory Board has got openings.
Mr. Chairman, you also have an opening for the McDowell Tech Board of Trustees. There's 1 vacancy, and this is the first reading.
First reading, right. Okay.
I got some hanging chads.
For all those watching, our clerk is tabulating the vote total.
We have 5 votes for Dennis Whitson. We have 5 votes for Arvin Hicks. We have 1 vote for Pam Forshey. We have 4 votes for Dustin Hawkins. We have 3 votes for Terry Good. One vote for Andrea Parker and 1 vote for Melanie Schaefer.
Okay? All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, let's move to item C under old business. This will be our public shooting range update. Mr. Wooten, sir, if you could lead us out on this topic.
Yes, sir. So I think the newspaper had a really good modifier for this. Long discussed, I think, was the, I might have that wrong, but we've talked about this range for a very long time. This is the range that is proposed to be located on county-owned property on Ashworth Road. I think maybe 2016 is when the gentleman first came, and it's taken this long. The good news is that we're a little bit closer than we were last time. So since we last talked about this project, Mr. Harmon and I did ask him maybe not to come tonight just due to the size limitations and everything, but he's been very involved as well in this project, Ronald Harmon. We've had numerous contacts with Stephen Bailey, who is the engineer for NC Wildlife. Mr. Bailey is doing all the legwork on the soil and erosion control permits. He emailed me this morning. There's more work to do on that. Mr. Bailey and Mr. Gardner, who you've met with, Mr. Harmon and I met with Chuck Hamrick via a Zoom meeting or Teams one or the other a couple weeks ago. So there is a small office/classroom storage type building, combination building that would be built, and they've asked if Mr. Hamrick can design that building. Chuck is willing with all the other projects in mind, but he said he could definitely do it and not hold us up. Duke Energy is going out to the site on the 20th of this month to design the access for their electrical service, which will probably follow the road that's going in. And maybe the best news is that if all the permits fall into place as hoped, the bid package is 60 to 90 days out. So that's much sooner than I think we last thought. As a reminder, the county will be bidding the project. We will be running the project through our books. We will then pay whoever is, we will have help throughout the process from wildlife, but we will be paying the contractor up front and seeking 90% reimbursement from the state with federal funds. So again, that's going to be in the next budget year. So we will have our 10% in next year's budget ordinance for that anticipated cost. So everything is moving. There are no delays on any part of the county or the state or anyone at this point to delay the project. So we're moving right along.
Okay, comments, questions? The board's been working on this project how long, Ashley? Remind us.
January 2016.
Okay. Old adage, good things come to those who wait, may apply here. All right, let's move on to the next item. Let's go to administrative items. Item A under new business. Mr. Wood, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. You have a few items for your amendments. You have your a write-off request from finance for the non-collectible EMS accounts. It asks that you approve those.
That was pleasure of the board.
Motion.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign.
The next one, I think last month you added or reclassified several positions on our position plan. This adds one position for an employee that was already on staff that is taking on a different position at the DOC. And so for FEMA, CARES Act, whatever reason, we're asking that you add this position to our pay plan. It's on grade 63. It's the incident management team communication leader. Very specific account.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign.
The next item before the amendments, it's on page 47. I'll dwell on it for just a second. This is the purchase and financing for several vehicles for the sheriff's office and EMS. I'll be honest, I had a conversation with the sheriff and Mr. Kehler about deferring the purchase of these vehicles, again, with the uncertainty around the budget. And both reminded me or informed me, I think it was a reminder, that when we deferred vehicle purchases in 2009, 2010, we sort of lived to regret it. And we had higher maintenance costs on vehicles in the subsequent years. And so we did look at deferring it. It does not make sense to do that. So before you have a resolution prepared by Ms. Bell, the finance director, that would authorize the financing for one 2020 ambulance for EMS, 2 Ford police interceptor all-wheel drives for sheriff's office, and 1 Ford F-150 for emergency services at the sheriff's office. Carolina Alliance Bank responded with the lowest rate of 1.672%. Read that slowly on purpose. The first payment would begin in December for semi-annual years of payment. So great rate. It's hard not to do it if we can, and we can recommend moving forward.
Okay, comments, questions? What's the pleasure of the board?
Move we approve.
Second. Okay, discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign.
The last item under administrative items, you have the budget amendments. It starts at GF 65 through 75, FD1, FD2, Enterprise 3, NEVO Water Enterprise 3, Transit 2, and Self-Insurance 2.
Okay.
We approve the amendments as presented.
All right, motion, you have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign.
That's all we have on admin.
Okay, let's go to item B. This is the JCPC annual plan approval. Mr. Wood, go ahead, sir, lead us out.
Yes, sir. This is an annual approval that we will probably have in the April or May agenda every year. You participate as a county organization with the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. They receive mostly state funds, if not all state funds, to provide funding for different programs and initiatives that aim to reduce criminal behavior in juveniles, to be blunt. So you have a memo on page 74 from Ms. Burleson, as the administrative assistant to the council, asking that you approve the plan submission for this year. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, comments, questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, like sign, it passes. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Wood. Let's move to the Golden Leaf Grant Initiative, item C, under new business.
Yes, sir. Didn't really think about it when I was putting the agenda together with Ms. Mitchell, but Golden Leaf, quick background, is a nonprofit that is based in Rocky Mount. It was set up about 20 years ago to administer tobacco settlement money from class action lawsuit at that time. So this building, as we probably all remember, was built definitely with the great assistance of Golden Leaf. They provided a little over $2 million in a community assistance initiative at the time where they were providing $2 million grants to Tier 1 counties. And so at that time, they would have a community meeting and interested parties came together and talked about different initiatives they might want to fund. The county was in the college or initial stages of trying to find space for the building to do a skills training center. So we owned the building at the time, but it was still in the embryonic stages. So it was good timing that Golden Leaf came along with $2 million to provide funding for this building, which we enjoy, and the college gets a lot of benefit out of. Earlier this year, Golden Leaf Foundation announced a new initiative. It's called the Community-Based Grants Initiative. This is a lot different than I want to just talk about. They are focusing right now on the 12-county Northwest Prosperity Zone, which we belong. And so before it was $2 million for each Tier 1 county. This is $11 million for 12 counties. The difference again is that this is not guaranteed money. This is a competitive program. So there's no guarantee that any of the counties will get money, let alone the 12. So there was a kickoff meeting several months ago. I attended, Mr. Abernathy attended, Mr. Boyette of the city attended, Neil Gurney from Gateway attended, Steve Bush had representation, Ms. Kim Effler was there with the chamber. So you had a good amount of representation from the community to learn about this program and to bring it back and sort of kick it off here. Right now, the community is in all the communities, all 12, are in the project development phase. There have been a few, I guess, trial balloons floated that have been popped by Golden Leaf. A couple that have floated to Rocky Mountain Top were housing. Had strong feedback that Golden Leaf will not do housing. We've had strong feedback they will not fund broadband. Trails, talked about, we've had some interest there by different nonprofits in the county. All those have been popped, to use that metaphor. So there are a couple of projects otherwise that have been talked about that still have some life. And there are others that could come about between now and the deadline in October. So they're still in the development phase, but one that has been talked about is a grading project on county property here off of College Drive. And there's been a discussion of having STEM labs placed in each of the elementary schools. But this is an opportunity, and reason I'm talking about it now at the commissioners meetings, to provide more information to the public for any eligible and interested parties that may want to apply. Nonprofits and government, local governments are the only eligible applicants. We've made, through assistance of the chamber, great effort to contact the nonprofits, especially in the county. And so there should be great awareness by them, but we just want to make sure there is awareness, because we would like to see a large share of that money come from McDowell County if at all possible. So I know as far as the grading project, we'll be working with Mr. Abernathy to hone that application. And our intent, if it has relation especially to county government, it will be before this board for approval. If the city had a project they'd like to endorse, where they would endorse it, that sort of thing. So this is an informational item at this point that will continue to provide updates throughout the year.
And if any commissioner has a project that they feel is worthy or should be considered, make sure to forward that to Mr. Wooten. And it'd be good if the city, the county, and the town could identify about 5 each, and then start weeding out and trying to pick the strongest one out of the 5 to present. Because I was in a meeting the other day, a Trails meeting, and they were talking about this very subject. And in that meeting, they had identified 5 projects. And I said, well, we've not heard about this. And the city was in the same meeting, and they've not had a chance to give input, nor the town. So I think it's very important that if elected leaders have to decide, we need to get lots of input from the public and see what the greatest need is and try to get behind it and all parties endorse it. So keep that. If you have ideas, submit them to Mr. Wooten, and the board will be talking about it in future days. Mr. Wooten, let's go to next item, City of Marion dispatching agreement request, which you've given to the board, and go ahead and discuss that with us, please.
Yes, sir. On page 83, you have an email from Mr. Boyette, City Manager of Marion. Going back to 2011, many, if not probably all of you, will remember that the city, the county, and the sheriff's office, the county sheriff is being separate at this point, had 3 different dispatching arrangements. So we had dispatching 911, dispatching house originally at the EMS base on South Garden Street. The sheriff had dispatchers at his facility, and the city of Marion had dispatchers in their facility. And so it worked okay, but there were issues with transferring calls, and so a desire to have better interoperability, and also with some funding restrictions put in place from the 911 board. The 3 were unified starting around 2010, 2011. So again, with the city, there was an interlocal agreement that you have again on page 84 that provided for consolidation of the city staff and function into a unified dispatching that is now under Mr. Kehler's authority. So this agreement provided that the city would provide space in the lower level of the police department building. It also provided that the county would accept 3 of the city employees to build out the staff of that department. While we're talking about it tonight, this agreement provided that the city would pay for 2 of those employees with no termination date. So the city has, and so right now the city is providing funding for 2 positions in the amount of about $118,000 a year. The city, you see Mr. Boyette's request, is requesting that that payment be reduced to next year to $80,000, and then the subsequent year it would be $40,000, and then after that it would be reduced to 0. So this is similar to the arrangement we have with the sales tax agreement winding down, just a little bit different on the amounts. that was 100 going down to 66, down to 33, to where this year we're providing 100,000. Next year's budget would be 66, then 33 next year. You have the request, this is from City Council, requesting that this change be made effective July 1.
Okay, comments, questions?
Currently, the city.
How much do we already contribute to the upkeep of that building and the facility? Or does city upkeep the building where they're housed?
I'm going to give an answer and then look at Mr. Kehler to provide maybe some clarifying information. The agreement does talk about cost sharing of some maintenance for that space. There may be a little more detail as to the exterior of the building, that sorts of things, but a lot of the maintenance, my understanding, for that space is at our expense. Is that?
Mr. Keller, you don't mind coming up, sir?
Yeah, each quarter we pay a certain percentage of, based upon the square footage of the center and the offices, for the utilities and maintenance costs. So you're looking at the utility bill of power, water, gas, insurance on the building, and that's prorated based upon the square footage amount.
And we pay back to the city?
That's correct, every quarter.
Do you know what that number is off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head, I don't.
Because what I'm thinking is we're gonna have to look for some places to find funds.
We could research that number, if that was the request, and get that for you. For your
That'd be real good.
meeting.
Does the city, I'm trying to remember, it's kind of like a, I mean, it's a 3-in-1. We had 3 PSAPs, is that correct? And then turned around and it went into one, where it came into one central station. Keep from having to go transferred out and drop calls. And I was thinking, is the sheriff had some say in dispatch, is that correct? Or did have at one time. Police department had some say in the dispatch because they first deployed. So they would lose that authority to be able, in the 911 center, to have any control or any say in what goes on that, from their side. Is that
So
correct?
the interlocal agreement addressed the utility issue as far as the breakdown of costs that are billed each quarter. And the interlocal agreement also stated that there would be a 911 advisory committee formed.
All right.
So we meet quarterly with the sheriff, with Marion PD, with the fire service, with rescue. Collectively in 2014, we brought additional agencies in, just partnerships matter. So that's the way that we continue to do it, bringing other agencies in to make sure issues are addressed. That is in the interlocal agreement.
Well, it's my opinion that, of course, this is my opinion, but that, you know, a service is provided here for the county and for the municipality. And I don't see that one should bear the expense, all the expense for both. So that's my stand on it.
In my lifetime, I saw 3 changes. I was a dispatcher in 1980, and it was McDowell County Sheriff's Office, COC. That's where we answered the phone.
Yeah. Marion Police Department.
And Larry Lowell was 213.
But we can, you know, as far as, I think Lynn had an idea there to come back with some numbers on that, and it would be, I would make a motion that we just table it until the next meeting and come back and look at numbers.
I can't give you the certain square footage amount, that percentage off the top of my head, but I can tell you that quarterly amount is between 800 to 1,000 for all of the cost
So you're looking at $800 to $1,000
per quarter. So roughly 4,000 a year.
Okay, we got to take care of this motion. We got a motion in a second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay? And all right, thank you, William, and we'll bring this up in the next meeting. Let's move to item E under new business. This would be tax matters. Mr. Wooten, sir, go ahead and lead us out.
Yes, sir. You do have tax matters starting on page 88. You have, I say the typical refunds, rebuilds, et cetera. I should throw the word discoveries in there on page 90. You do see discovery, and these discoveries are from business listing, and just so I do want to point that out that you do receive those every month, and they are presented from that office. Everything else should be routine.
Okay, comments, questions? What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion approved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, let's go to our added item, item F under new business. And we had asked staff at our last meeting to draft a resolution so the board could review it and then vote on it. This would be the second resolution, and we sent a letter also from the board too. And this is all related to the COVID situation. And so we all know that we all want businesses to open up. We understand the backbone of McDowell County or any community is your small local business owners. And, you know, I've talked to all y'all, and I know you agree, we hate to see the big box stores be able to operate and be declared essential, and your small mom and pop operators are deemed non-essential. So the board wants to advocate and do all we can to encourage the governor's office to do what they can to allow this process to really accelerate. So with that being said, we've got the resolution in front of us, and you men and women have had a chance to look at that. And are there any additions or deletions that any board member had that they want to bring up? I had two, because this is in the form of resolution, and I'll read my two that I want to see added, and then we'll go around the room and see what everybody else has. I've got, that'd be the first, second, the ninth resolution. This would be a 10th to go in there. And here's my resolution, I'll read it. Whereas all churches should be classified as essential and be granted the same rights and privileges as retail businesses that are classified as essential. That's one. The second one is, whereas small businesses are the backbone of any local economy and should be allowed the same rights and privileges as retail and commercial businesses, thus classifying them as essential also. So that's my two that when I read it, looked at, and thought for myself, I would like to see them added. So
that would be the two that I'd like to see added as well.
I'd like to read something concerning that. And this comes from Section 13, Article 1, Section 13 of the North Carolina Constitution concerning religious liberty. All persons have a natural and inalienable right to worship Almighty God according to the dictates of their own consciences, and no human authority shall, in any case whatever, control or interfere with the rights of conscience. I don't think this board, the governor, or any other authority in the state of North Carolina or in the United States of America has the right to control the church whatsoever.
okay.
On 13 today, they did an update that was right before the update for the county. And there was at least 3 people called in reference to that from different areas in our state. And honestly had the girl hunting for an answer. You could tell she was kind of struggling for an answer to say as to why you can't do that, and ended up basically saying, well, if you had different rooms in your church and you just kept it down to 10, and but then her final word was, we're still searching for ways to handle this. She wouldn't commit to nothing.
I think the Constitution speaks for itself.
I agree. We've been having outside church, and it's went well, but we're ready to go inside.
Right. We have our county attorney here too tonight, but now I want to, before we move off, and I agree with everything you said, that what you read is accurate, but we did direct staff to draft another resolution that we could forward down there to the governor's office, so they will need to take up the what's before us with any additions or deletions, then we can go ahead and Mr. Coates can go ahead and come up next and give us legally what this board can possibly do to move forward too.
I think that if we ask somebody to deem the church as essential, then we are, in one sense, saying that the church is like any other business out there that could be deemed essential or non-essential. I don't think that we should ask the governor or anybody else to say that the church is essential. It's not up to them.
And I see that. I mean, I agree with you on that too. I'm just trying to get something just further stating that we want to see our churches opened up.
We do, and what
Your two, that the Constitution stands,
Yeah.
add that into that.
stands for itself.
Stands for itself. And that's some of the, well, lawyers here, I guess we'll just wait, but, I've had preachers say, well, what would you do, Blair? I said, I can't tell you. Legally, I can't tell you. Your Constitution's there. If you go back in the service, and I know for a fact that some churches have gone back into the sanctuary, and they're planning on it this Sunday. I do know Thursday, there's going to be a trip made to Raleigh, and there is at least 3 groups that are going to be suing the governor for his actions specifically related to the churches.
Federal judges are already starting to rule on it.
And what we're seeing in other states, Kentucky ruled in 100% favor of the churches. No, everybody that has sued or gone against the governors in those states have won every single case that they brought up. When you can take abortion clinics as essential, I said, well, social distancing, but we can't get our hair cut with a mask on and gloves and by appointment, and that was asked to the governor that day. I was listening to that press conference.
Yep.
Well, you can't do this, you can't do that. Of course, I argued with him a little bit on the internet, and that didn't do any good. But you tell me how, and I'll just be blunt, with an abortion where a doctor is basically in a female's space performing an abortion, how is that essential? That is not life or death 99% of the time. And when you see the ADC stores open, because it's state run, and when he will not back off and allow up, what he tries to say is that, and it's not political. There's a lot of things that I think the governor, we as a board, and the state, the churches have done very positive. I mean, did they social distance? They went to drive-in services or online services. But when he puts that number at 10, I fully understand. We can't dictate to a church if they can go in or they can't. We can't tell them they can go. We can't tell them they cannot go. That's not us. We've proven that. That's the governor himself. We put everything back on him. But I think us as a board, we need to show the churches in this county, and I know we do. I know we do. I talk to pastors, and I tell them we do support you. Well, what are you doing? Are you taking a stand? Are you trying to help us? And we are. We're trying to do it the right way. and say, look, and I found those documents that said, look, there's maybe times that organizations has to sue. Know that there's counties suing governors now, oversteps or overreaching in government.
I would also step out on a limb and say that I believe that, and I'm only speaking for McDowell County, but I think our local churches would have probably done what was necessary anyway and started the social distancing on their own and made their own decisions. I think they would have done that, and I think they have, and I think they have shown great respect by abiding by what they've been asked to do. But I think that as a government, that we need to keep our hands off of people's religious liberty.
You can have 50 at a funeral. I was at one Thursday, they were hugging necks, shaking hands. Basically just watching, I know for a fact there's more than 50 there. I counted. And there's people in here, I visited a place in the western end of the county, there's people here from out of state on trails that's closed. I didn't make a call in, which we can discuss that later, but I didn't call in on people from Louisiana and Indiana and Georgia and Tennessee and Virginia hiking the Catawba Trail that's closed, that they went around the barrier. Maybe I should have reported them, but I'm not going around looking and trying to find things to report people for that we're hearing, because a restaurant didn't wear a mask or gloves when they were handed food, and it reported to us as a county. We've seen that as an email. And the city and calling Raleigh on things like that and just driving around looking for reasons. It's kind of ridiculous. It's chaos. It's terrible, the misinformation that is out there. And we know this board, people look at us and y'all aren't doing anything, and I'm about worn out with it, just being honest with you. I mean, the inside, I told somebody today, inside, I'm pretty torn up. I can't show that outside. I can't express that. I have to be strong, and that's what we're supposed to do. But inside, I'm just about up to my goozle and what's going on. 100% protection of our citizens is our goal. But sooner or later, we've said it over and over. It's time that we kind of defend, and we are. I'm not saying we're not, but we got to defend our people. And if the cases are not here, and I agree, you have your own right to be able to speak and give us your view and your opinion, and that's acceptable. But don't be putting falsehoods on this board and things like that, And it's out there. It's just part of politics. It's okay. We've been accused of a lot of stuff, but it's not true.
And Lynn, you brought up a good point. I had not looked at what I just wrote from the angle you're looking at it. I think a better sense may be this. Whereas all churches should be granted the same rights that are afforded and reference exactly what you referenced right there.
Ties in together.
Yeah, and don't leave out essential this, essential that, and non-essential. And that references a document that's pretty solid.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I definitely think after hearing discussion, one good thing that a person that I found being a commissioner through the years, when you sit down and talk about it, you got 5 different people, somebody may bring up an angle that you hadn't thought about. And I had not thought about that, because by that statement, we would have been saying that government would be the one deciding whether a church is essential or not essential. And I agree. That's a good point.
Well, I'll tell you how I have come up with where I stand on this. For the past several days, I have caught myself criticizing folks across the country because of the position that our churches have been put in. And I said, wait just a minute, son. You did the same thing when you agreed to and voted to declare a state of emergency and go along with the governor's order. And when I did, that put me in the same position that he was in. And I have to apologize that I did not stop and think, how is this going to affect people's liberties? Our small businesses in the county, some of them probably are not going to open back up. I think that they could have and probably would have done even better than our larger stores at controlling social distancing, at sanitizing and doing a better job of keeping this thing from spreading if they had had the liberty to do so.
It's been totally unfair to them, but I know it was out of our hands. I'm not saying it was in our hands, but I think it was as far as the big overall picture of the powers that be, that the big box stores were allowed to continue, and we shut down the little ones.
They made
which
a
are the
killing.
backbone
They made
of
a
the
killing
county.
during this whole process.
Our little ones are our backbone. They're our backbone.
If the board is okay to just table this one resolution, have Mr. Wooten, anything you need, any other comments by board members, and have him look at this and with modification, bring it back Monday for the board to consider. Would that be acceptable to the board?
Monday? I'm good.
Yeah.
Or 11:30?
Yeah, 11:30. Okay. Okay, let's do that. Now, we've got our attorney here, and Mr. Coates, if you don't mind, come forward, sir. Good to have you tonight. And, you know, we want to make sure that everything we do is correct. So, Mr. Coates, can you explain to the board what the board can or cannot do from a legal perspective in regard to what we've all been experiencing and our people have?
I'll try. Okay. Let me say first that I don't disagree with what really any of you said as far as rights and liberties. There is an interesting article, comments that was made by John Goose. He's the director of legal studies at the John Locke Foundation, and also echoed by Robert Orr, former Robert Orr. I don't think I can find any more conservative folks than that. So the article says that states hold power to declare quarantines, curfews, and other restrictions in the case of an emergency according to GUZ, or GUZ, G-U-Z. Given all of that, and given the governor appears to obtain concurrence of the Council of State as required under the law, there's little doubt that prohibition of mass gatherings is legal under North Carolina and U.S. constitutions. And then Justice Orr said, it would not be a lawsuit against the governor that I would want to bring, in a sense that it's a practical matter. It's not like communications with your church is being eliminated. So conservative folks even have a problem with what can and can't be done. The county of McDowell and the other 99 are creatures of the state. You exist by virtue of the state, and the powers given to you are given to you by the General Assembly. In fact, 153A11 says that the corporate powers of the county may be exercised in conformity with the laws of the state. County powers, rights, duties, functions, privileges, and immunities of every name and nature are granted by the state. And then if you look at the case in 1928, that's a suit against Wake County, the North Carolina Supreme Court ruled that this is a case of O'Neill versus Wake County, 196 North Carolina, 184 North Carolina Supreme Court in 1928. Wake County is a body, politic and corporate, created by the General Assembly of North Carolina for certain public and political purposes. Its powers as such, both expressed and implied, are conferred by statutes
enacted from time to time by the General Assembly and exercised by its Board of Commissioners. In the exercise of ordinary government functions, counties are simply agencies of the state, constituted for the convenience of local administration in certain portions of the state's territory. And in the exercise of such functions, they are subject to almost unlimited legislative control. So, like the old story is, the mama say, I brought you in this world and I can take you out. Well, that's pretty much the way it works with the county's power. Now, sending a resolution is not, I'm not going to give you a legal opinion. Personally, I think it's a good thing to do, to let people know where you stand and to let the governor know where you stand. But from a legal standpoint, the people that I've been able to read about and see indicate that the governor has not exceeded his authority because of the state of emergency that we're in. And I'll say one thing personally, we are definitely in new territory. And we are definitely, it's not over. We're at 15,000 as of now. And meat plant, I think, in Burke County has just had some additions. So we got to be careful, got to be on our toes, do what we need to do. But legally, I think we are subject to whatever the General Assembly, the Council of State, and the governor does.
I would agree with that, except in the case of the church, because the Constitution says in any case whatever, no human authority in any case whatever.
Oh, Orr and Guts both spoke to that and thought that that would be something that could be done. But that's their legal opinion, that's not mine.
Correct.
Okay.
I just want folks to know where I stand.
Yeah.
Okay, other questions for Mr. Coates?
Okay, thank you for coming.
So basically, the governor has a dictatorship. I'll say dictatorship, but that's kind of almost, because I believe he has done
In
great. I've seen
times
him
of
all.
chaos,
Yeah,
profit can be made. That's, you heard it. But we are in a chaotic situation. And there is precedent and authority under the state's Emergency Management Act for the governor to do what he's done under Chapter 166A, North Carolina Emergency Management Act. 166A passed in 1977. And those are referenced in the governor's orders. He referenced those statutes. And the General Assembly went down and just passed unanimously assistance. And nobody's raised a question at that point about the authority to do or to do what the governor did. And of course, the Council of State at first raised some questions about it, but the last several resolutions have been adopted or not any complaints made through the Council of State or through the General Assembly.
is the governor's executive order a law?
It's an order that can be enforced by a criminal conviction.
Correct.
So yes, the emergency management does have a section in it for misdemeanor criminal violation. Yeah. From a practical standpoint, do your resolution. Other counties will do that. I'm sure that folks in Raleigh want to get things back in order. The county, the states are losing money. We got roads, we got schools, we got needs for all kinds of needs that we need to continue to fund. So they don't want it closed.
Correct.
And again, I don't disagree with what you're saying.
I know you don't.
But it's the way it is, and let's deal with it and work with it as best we can.
Let me just go ahead and ask you a point blank question, and you've already answered the question that I'm going to ask, but I want to make it a little plainer and clearer because some may not understand it. But there's been a lot of controversy going on recently that maybe we as a board, we as county government are not doing everything that we should to get things going again. Do we have, as a county government, do we have authority to override the governor?
No, no.
Thank you, sir.
And theoretically, the county could be dissolved, and made part of Burke and Buncombe or wherever you want to go. But no, you don't have that authority. And if you encourage it, you could be encouraging somebody to commit a misdemeanor, which is a misdemeanor to do that.
Which we're charged also. We would be charged.
Yeah. So now, from an observation personally, I think you're doing what you can do. And I don't think you can do a whole lot more. That's just a personal observation. Legal obligation, you're doing what you can do.
So we can lobby, basically you're
Yes.
saying, we can lobby, we can make calls, we can send emails, we can encourage people to do the same, give them the email addresses and phone numbers, and just call down there and say, we want it opened up responsibly, however, we just want it opened up.
Just remember what may happen 4 weeks from now. It's interesting how the lady in the White House was tested and tested and tested, and then tested again and was found to be a carrier. The pre-signs, the pre-testing is supposed to, when you don't show any sign, it's supposed to be the most dangerous time of all, that you can infect more people. And then later, a day or two later, you may test positive. So you don't know. That's the scary thing about this condition, this disease. You just don't know. You know if you got the flu. Any more?
Okay. All right. Thanks, Fred. Is that all comments, questions directed to our county attorney?
I'm good.
Thank you, Fred. Ms. Wood, anything you want to add to that?
No, he stole my phrase, creatures of the state. So I like to say that when we do like an overview of county government. And that is important to point out. I had a conversation with the chairman earlier where states and federal government have more of a shared relationship, maybe not as much as it used to be. 10th Amendment. There is no 10th Amendment between the counties and the state. As he said, we could be dissolved in a moment's notice. Not saying that's hyperbole on our part to say that. But we are subject to the whims of the legislature and the governor, whether we like it or not.
Okay. Ms. Kehler, anything else from your standpoint you can add to this conversation?
No, sir. Mr. Coates addressed 166A, and that is the statute that guides the action.
Okay. All right. This board has well stated that we are for responsibly opening this thing up, getting our small businesses back at it, and the board feels strongly that if a big company can operate with the social distancing, a small company should have the same right. So anyway, let's move on to our next item. We have covered everything on our agenda minus citizen comment. Are there any reports, communications by staff or commissioners?
Probably if you would adjourn to next Monday. Well, we already scheduled, so never mind.
Okay.
Every,
All right, there, motion we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor say aye. All right, meeting is adjourned.